I guess it just is. Young guys seem so lost right now. I don't know if they have to be though. I don't know if this is like an internet thing, but like I see dudes who are like 22 and they're like, I'm giving up on relationships forever, and it's like, what? You're 22 years old. Like you haven't even you've had like one relationship that went poorly, and then you watch some YouTube videos that told you it's over, and now to you it's over. And I think a lot of these guys are kind of the conservative voter base, and I guess I'm not really interested in swaying their vote so much as I am in understanding them and trying to get to the bottom of what's happening and why so many young dudes feel like it's so over right now. I want to, understand it. I get it to an extent, but I don't fully grasp it. And
Yeah, I
I
mean,
would like to,
I think part of it,
I think speaking to these people is important if you want to win the next election.
yeah, I think part of it is unfortunately all of these issues in society now are so like multifaceted. There's not really any simple like singular answer. I think there's probably a couple things playing into it. One is I'm going to lean on that other answer earlier is that progressives decided they just didn't want to talk to white people or men anymore. I think which is a huge problem.
Why? Why did they decide that?
Um, there's a whole academic justification for it, but it's stupid and not worth going into.
Is it like some kind of sociology thing? I mean, I'm curious if you don't mind.
Well,
We can
sure.
just
I mean, like
TLDR it.
basically the idea is white men in society have held the majority power, and so there needed to be explicit effort put into helping other groups catch up. And if men were or white people were ever complaining about that, they were only ever complaining because they felt like they were losing ground to minorities because they were racist. So the idea is if you're sitting there talking to a white man, why would you do that when these people have society who's completely built for them? Which was true. However, regardless of if that's true or not, the impression you're going to get after a while, if one side is saying constantly, we're not talking to you, we're not for you, we're talking to all these other minority people, and then on the back of that, they're greenlighting a whole bunch of like hate towards white men, which they did a ton, and they thought it was epic and funny, and some of it was epic and funny, but not when you're hypocritical or one-sided about it. I mean, over time, you build resentment. It's just like microaggressions or racism or anything else. If I sit there and I shit on black people all day and I make anti-black jokes and I call them racial slurs and I say that they're, built for or whatever over and over and over again, eventually black people are going to fucking hate me. And I think that the white male demographic in the United States has probably felt those vibes from the left, especially progressives, for quite a while. And that's the thing that's just been.
When you say progressives, how do you like differentiate that from like the mainstream Democratic Party?
I think the mainstream Democrat is not anywhere near as plugged into like a lot of those social issues. I'm
Like
thinking,
identity politics, whatever,
yeah,
DEI.
I think that a lot of that stuff is super cheer led by like people on college campuses who make up like the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. So electorally and legally, they have very little power, but culturally, they're like the dominating voice on the left.
Right. Yeah, I think that I think part of the problem when you say culturally, a lot of that is the like internet stuff because the internet is forming a lot of our culture now, obviously, and our culture informs the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of that is like for years. I remember when I was growing up watching YouTube during like I mean, I know I actually was rewatching some old skeptic debates you had recently because I'm sick of your political shit. I want to see you have drama. I mean, it
Thanks.
was political, but I was watching like the Tonka Saw debates and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy was pretty funny. I kind of miss him, honestly. But a lot of the stuff that guys like that, like Andy Worski or Shoe on Head or Sargon of Akkad were pushing back on back then was like, you can say you can call the skeptic community cringe, and I would largely agree. But they were pushing back on some crazy stuff that some people were saying, like saying you can't be racist to white people, which is obviously untrue. But when you have a large, amount of people online saying shit like that, and these people are, funded by like what seems to be like traditional media companies, or they have more professional setups like Anita Sarkeesian, people like that,
Mm-hmm.
and you have all these people saying you can't be racist to white people, or saying like what were those BuzzFeed videos like 20 questions women have for white men? Like obviously that kind of shit is gonna really push white men away when they feel like you're calling them racist just because of the color of their skin, which is racist in and of itself. I think a lot of that stuff, like, unironically, I think that, so like for context, my dad is a pretty right wing guy. He likes like Joe Rogan and stuff like that. And I notice he'll have takes that I was having when I was like 14 years old because I was watching YouTube, right? But a lot of this stuff that like was in the anti-SJW skeptic community back then has kind of made its way to mainstream, talking points for a lot of the right. And I mean, there's a reason why. It's because a lot of that shit was completely that those people were saying. But that kind of stuff I think has really, really pushed white men away. And when it feels like, the Democratic Party doesn't represent them or care about them, and then you have all these like crazy leftists online who are saying like you can't be racist to white people, or you have like unironically Hassan, using racial slurs against white people frequently to demean them, saying I mean, like reparations, stuff like that. I don't know how you feel about that, but I would probably feel like reparations are pretty, or like saying like, these people are just the descendants of slave owners. Like I'll even get like that in my comment section sometime. And even if I was descended from slave owners, the idea that I'm responsible for that in some way is insane. But on top of that, like I'm also just not descended from slave owners. My family came over after that. But there is this impression among or maybe not impression. There are these talking points that like white people should feel guilty for the actions of the past and things that happened in the past, for shit that these people aren't even responsible for. And I think it makes sense why it would push people away from that kind of side, even if, let's say, someone like Hassan is ultimately representative of a very small portion of the
Yeah, I think I agree with all this, right? I
Democratic
feel like
Party.
this is essentially what I was saying before, right? Yeah, you can't say like white people, men over and over and over again, and then be surprised when that demographic turns away from you, like over the.
So what is the solution?
I think the issue is that the mainstream Democrats, like the problem is that all the Democrats that would say like this is cringe just don't talk about this stuff, right? You don't hear Biden or Gavin Newsom or any of the like larger Democratic figures. They just don't engage, or even Bernie Sanders. They just don't typically engage with any of this. It's like exclusively culture warrior stuff, which is predominantly young white progressives who are some of the craziest motherfuckers on the planet.
But culture warrior stuff seems like it's extremely important right now. No, it's like
Yeah, it is pretty important. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but so I mean,
it's
like
a huge
people,
part of talking points.
yeah. So people have to start engaging with it on the left. Yeah, better voices. Yeah, and then Democrats
Right.
need to do a better job at excising a lot of these progressives from the party because they're not Democrats who don't even support the candidates. Like it's crazy that people that don't even support Biden are simultaneously bringing the party down at the same time. Like they need to be. Yeah, the Democrats.
When you
need to-
say progressives, you mean like leftist socialists or just like
I
what
mean,
does
it's
that really
socialists
entail?
and like people that are getting basically like a litmus test would be you ask them, can you be racist towards white people? And if they immediately say no, you can't, then anybody like that, you don't ever want to have like these people. You don't want to work with. You don't want them as part of your movement.
So how do you talk to that group of people without delving into like white identitarianism?
I mean, you can delve into it. Just be honest about it. Like people need to, and don't be soy as. And yeah, that's what I would say. I don't know. I mean, it's easy to say.
Well, you say talk to these people, like what does that look like in terms of like, okay, so the next Democratic candidate, they're giving some kind of speech and they're trying to include the white male voter base. Like, how do you do that? Because at this point, I don't think it's enough to just ignore the topic because the impression is already there. Like, you already have the progressives in the party who have said
I mean,
crazy
it can be
shit.
like it can be highlighting men. I mean, the problem is a lot of this stuff happens on the culture level. So politicians speaking aren't going to be a big part of it. But when politicians do speak, it could be something like highlighting men's suicidality, or it could be something highlighting like men's lack of attainment in education, like things like this. Like, would be nice just to like give air to it. And then on the culture level, on the podcast level, and all this, yeah, the predominant voices on the left can't just be the crazy progressive people. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, so you push those people out of the party. You talked about the Democratic Party being like a big tent party and wanting to kind of change that. What does that look like, dude? Does that look like just like kicking out the progressives? Like, does it look like not talking about? Because I think, whatever you think about trans issues, I think it's obvious that to the majority of Americans, it's not that big of a deal. Do you think that like not using those kind of like pro LGBT talking points is going to be a part of the Democratic Party now as well? Like,
No,
kind of
I think
going
you
back
can
to
do it.
almost
You
like a
just have to
Clinton
be.
thing?
You need to be chill and you need to be positive. Like you can be positive about these things, but somehow the left finds a way to like negatively like slant every single thing they talk about. So that like when you talk about accepting LGBT people or accepting like policies to help black or whatever, all of it feels like punishment. Like even they talk about taxes like it's a punishment. I don't know. It's all of it is just like cringe. The way they talk about everything is like so self-loathing and self-hating, and yeah, that needs to stop.
I appreciate that, Destiny.
All right, bye.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.